Coach, what's good? Hope everybody's doing great tonight. This is Ryan Maddox with Maddog's Coach's Kennel. It's the night of the national championship football game. I'm feeling great. Watching Nick Saban get his, sixth or seventh overall national, whatever it is. He's a freaking genius. Just a maestro, unbelievable. Just feeling pumped up. Baby's asleep. It's like midnight. I'm feeling juiced, right? So first of all, I apologize for the lighting. I'm just switching stuff around. It's a brand new channel. I've got some desk lamps just all over the place right now. It's not comfortable. Tons of lights in my eyes. So if anybody has some suggestions on really effective lighting for kind of a desk setup, please leave below in the comments. But so anyway, first couple videos, we've touched on how difficult this process is for everybody and how difficult it's going to be for you. Today I want to let you in a little bit on my story on, yes, the struggle was real, but the payoff was absolutely worth it, okay? So I'm going to tell you about how I got my first job in college basketball coaching. So to start, I began my coaching career as a high school senior. Started coaching a middle school basketball team. Told you guys I was a pretty good high school player, but not great. I knew that I wasn't good enough to play in college, at least at the level that I would have liked to. And I might have been able to walk on at a D3, something like that, but maybe not, right? I was decent. So I had an offer to coach at a small little private school in San Francisco, a middle school. Took that opportunity and had an awesome time. Had 18 kids on the team. At that time, I was in the process of applying to different colleges. I'd always wanted to go to Duke. I did not think that I would get accepted into Duke. I'm certainly not a genius. I had some, good grades, pretty good test scores and all that stuff, but it's a crapshoot when you're going after schools like that. So my whole thing really was I wanted to be a part of Duke's basketball program, and I wanted to coach. So I knew if I got accepted, I was going to try to be a student manager. Things fell in the right way for me. The next year, I started being a student manager for Duke's team. Awesome experience. Just like it does for most people, though, life comes at you fast. So a few years, go by, and I had to take some time off from college for, had something happen in my personal life, which not a terrible thing, but maybe I'll get into that in another video. Long story short, I kind of took bits and pieces. I took classes when I could. My family's certainly not rich, so it was cheaper for me to go to school during the summers. So I would go to school in the summer, in the mornings, and then I would build my coaching resume, coach in AAU, rec leagues, church leagues, police department leagues, anything I could do, okay? Ended up finally graduating from school when I was 30 years old. And at that point, I had transitioned into, I knew I had to get on the road, right? We talk about going to different places and meeting as many coaches as you can and cultivating relationships to form a network in this business. So I had started to do that. The best way that I could do that was as a talent evaluator, as a scout. And at the time, I was working with a fantastic guy named Rick Lewis. The Lewis family still runs and operates Phenom Hoop Report. Great service, based in North Carolina. So many great college and professional players have come through, their tournaments, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to work with Rick and to be able to go to these tournaments to evaluate guys. So what I would do is I would put out, my evaluations for the company that I got paid for, and then I would just keep my side notes on everybody else, maybe marginal players, whatever it is. So these schools that I would go around and visit, I'm providing coaches with free reports of extra guys that I think may fit into their system. That was my way in the door to say, hey, I'm not just here to watch practice. I'm here to give you something, coach. This isn't, just me grilling you with questions, which I certainly did, but I actually had something to offer. And we can get into that stuff a little bit more in future videos. So, I'd gone around and probably visited, I'd say at least 100 schools, all different levels, 4 or 5 states. I was based in Raleigh, North Carolina. One trip in particular, I hit 2 practices in one day. My first practice was 6 a.m., first thing in the morning, Division III school. okay? A lot of D3 schools, I don't know if it's still the same way, but at that time, they just had one full-time assistant, and then the other guys, girls, are volunteers. This school had, the head coach was there. He'd been there for a good while. He had just hired his full-time assistant as a replacement. And I had good talk with him after their practice, just, the process on trying to get involved in college coaching. And the message from him was just how difficult it is. I don't think he was trying to kill my dream, but he was not blowing smoke up my ass. I mean, it was, hey, this is, it's a really rough business. But little did he know, I had been a high school assistant at that time for 6 years at 2 different schools. I had coached AAU. I had done all that. I had put legwork in. I wasn't afraid of working hard. So his telling me how hard it was going to be, that didn't bother me, right? So that same afternoon, I went to a Division I school to their practice. I'm there for 2 hours. I'm talking to the coaches. I'm taking voracious notes and just loving the practice. They had a very unique style of play. And what was unique about this, I was lucky enough to spend some quality time with many head coaches, but this head coach in particular, we really clicked. And it's the middle of January. His team's on a 4-game losing streak, and we're out in the parking lot just chopping it up, talking hoops, talking his story. And it turns out that he got into basketball coaching at the collegiate level at a later stage as well. I want to say he was hired for his first job when he was 35. I was 30 at the time, meeting him. So that was another thing that resonated with him about me. He walks me up, onto campus where we go to a water polo match together. And I just, we ended up spending about 4.5 hours together that day in the middle of the season after his practice. So I really appreciated that, just the mentorship and the beginning of this relationship I was hoping to have with this coach. And we exchanged numbers, all that. Anytime his team would have a big win or a good performance, I would text him. But like anything else, I didn't think a whole lot of it as far as, can I get a job? Because, his guy at that time, he had his top assistant had been with him for, I want to say 10 years. Another guy had been with him for 9 years, and his third assistant had been with him for 4 years. So fast forward a couple of months, and I'm in Portsmouth, Virginia, doing evaluations at the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament, which is where guys, basically like a free agent tryout for the NBA and for European teams. The guys that aren't good enough to get drafted, but maybe guys that are like conference player of the year in conferences that are ranked, RPI anywhere from 10 on down the line to 30, 31, 32, that kind of thing. A lot of talent in the building, even some ACC Big Ten level players there, but just the guys who aren't going to get drafted. And I see an assistant from the school there. We talk, and so another couple weeks go by. I do my evaluations from the event, and I text the assistant from this school about a guy that I had seen, a high school guy who I thought might fit. And it just so happens, he said, "Oh, Coach, Ryan, thanks for getting in touch with me. I got to let you know, I actually just resigned from my position yesterday. I got a new job at a different school up in the Northeast that I've accepted." So I'm literally like the first, other than the head coach, his colleagues at the school, and whoever he's told, his family members, I'm like the first person to know. It's not out on the net. It's not on Hoop Dirt yet. We'll get into Hoop Dirt and those kinds of things, different websites you can utilize in your search later in different videos. But so I'm thinking, okay, wow. Did I expect to get a job? Absolutely not. Did I expect for an opening to come open? Absolutely not. I didn't really know how to handle it, guys and gals. So I sat on it for, I don't know, an hour, not long, but I realized, okay, I've got to make a move. So I called the head coach's number, his office number. I called his office number, but at 2 or 3 in the morning, gave myself a chance that there's like a 95% chance that he's not going to be in the office at that time. And I had a script written out that I had practiced a lot, but I'm an excitable guy, right? You guys see this. This is who I am. I'm very passionate. And I was going to lay it on the line to just say, listen, I know I don't have any college coaching experience. I'm not looking to move up from the D2 level to D1, to where you're at. But hear me out. Here's what I can bring to the table, and here's all my experience, all that kind of stuff. After having known him for a couple of months, and I just laid it out there and let it be. So this is probably May. Yeah, May. And so you guys probably know this, but getting into the business, summertime is when you work all your camps. So I had camps lined up. I worked UVA that year, Tony Bennett's camp. I worked, a ton of different camps, NBA Top 100 camp. And I happened to be at the University of Richmond camp with Coach Mooney. Fantastic school, excellent program, phenomenal coaching staff. Was really happy to have this position and having a good time at camp. And something told me, I just said, I haven't heard from this coach where I was hoping to get an interview. I had actually put an application in at this point online, an official application. But don't get anything wrong here. Hundreds of people apply for these jobs. So that was more just crossing my T's and dotting my I's. But something told me I had one suit, okay? When I was a high school assistant coach for 6 years, I'm not proud of this, but this is a fact. I had one, it was a nice suit. It was a Brooks Brothers suit. And I wore that mother effer. I had some different ties, right? I tried to switch it up. I did everything I can with the one suit, charcoal gray. But I bet you I wore that suit for, I don't know, 120, 130 games. It doesn't matter. On the sideline. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get my suit dry cleaned and take it up to Richmond with me just in case he happens to call and say, hey, I want to, let's talk. Can you talk in the next couple of days? And then I could, it wasn't a close drive, but I could drive over, whatever. And as things happen, I'm at Richmond. I think I worked 2 sessions at the camp. I'm sitting there. He calls and says, hey, I really appreciated your message, and do you have any time to talk? So I had to work it out. When you're working at camp, you're the head coach of a team full of kids. So I had to work it out with the current assistant coaches at Richmond at the time. Say, look, this is my shot. I need to go and interview. You guys okay with this? If they weren't okay with it, then I was just gonna have to resign. But they get it. It's so hard to break into the business. They were great. They let me go, and it was. I tell you what, I had. I went the night before because I didn't want to drive from Richmond all the way, to where this place is, same morning, and just feel like a zombie, or catch traffic, whatever. So I was in touch with the associate head coach. We had become friendly through text and whatnot throughout the process. And the night before, I don't know if this was a good thing or not, but I'm glad that he did. He texted me. He's like, hey, I just want you to know what you're up against. We've already interviewed five coaches, and all five are Division II assistants looking to break them into D1. So I'm sitting there literally the night before my first interview for college basketball coaching. I'm being told, okay, you've got 5 guys who have already interviewed in front of you, and they've all got way more experience in the game at the collegiate level. So I was a little bit deflated, but I also felt like, well, wait a second. Why would he want to interview me? Why is he going to interview me unless I don't have a shot? If I don't have a shot, why even have me in? So something was there. So I went in rocking and rolling, just super prepared. The third assistant at the school basically served as an assistant and as the director of operations, and as kind of an academic overseer of sorts, like an academic coordinator, because just very small school, don't have the budget to employ tens of 20 people for each program, whatever. To me, that was an advantage, because if I got the job miraculously, I was going to be starting as a third assistant, an actual assistant coach. So I knocked this thing out, right? It was just, I leave there after the interviews, like oh wow, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. I go with the assistant coaches into campus. I'm meeting all the academic people. I met a few players. I talked with the head coach for a couple of hours. I felt like it was going naturally. He could feel my passion. And I left there, and I'm working another Richmond camp. I don't know, I must have worked like all 3 weeks of Richmond camp that year, because I got the call to get the interview when I was at Richmond. I go interview, and then I'm headed back to Richmond for like another 10 days or something. So I interview on a Tuesday. The head coach told me, he said, okay, I'm gonna let you know by, next Tuesday at the very latest. Next Tuesday, so a week, right? And this is another video I'll make somewhere down the line, but after you interview, it is the hardest thing to not bug the ever-living piss out of the staff. And hey, have you heard anything? What can I do to up my chances? Yada, yada, yada. So the longest week in history goes by. I'm working my butt off at Richmond camp, coaching these kids, learning like crazy, but just hoping like, has my dream finally come to fruition? And Tuesday rolls around. We go back to the dorms. My roommate and I are just chopping it up. He's going to be up with me no matter what happens, because he knows what's going on. He's a young guy, just a genius, graduated from Columbia in 2.5 years. He was a manager at Columbia at the time. He's an assistant in the Pac-12 now, and he's super young. I'd say John is, 33, something like that. Maybe 34, whatever, but super happy for him. But we're just young bucks, right? We don't really know the difference. We're just staying up hoping that I get this thing. Well, it gets to be like 10 o'clock, and I happen to be friends with a guy that I was texting about this job, and he said, oh man, I didn't tell you this. I actually had interviewed for that job. He was a D2 assistant in another state in North Carolina. He had interviewed for the job, and he goes, oh man, this is at like 10 p.m. on Tuesday. I'm supposed to hear back by Tuesday at the latest. He goes, oh, Ryan, I'm so sorry, man. The coach got in touch with me and said that he hired a guy. He's got a guy in mind. He knows who he's chosen, kind of thing, and had let him down. So I'm thinking, oh, well, I didn't get it, and I still haven't even, I must have been last on this total poll, because I didn't even hear back anything. So I'm just sitting there stirring in my thoughts. I called my girlfriend at the time, who's back in Raleigh. I'm just feeling down, and I'm hoping to at least get a text from the head coach to say, hey, thank you for interviewing. It was nice to meet you. Good luck in your search, kind of thing. I kid you not, 11:59 on my cell phone, my phone rings. It's the head coach. We're talking, and I'm not feeling great, because I feel like I know that he's going to let me down, but this dude is going on and on like diarrhea of the mouth, right? Like crazy. He's talking to me. It gets to be 45 minutes. I almost said, Coach, I have to report at 6:30 in the morning tomorrow, for coaches meetings, whatever we had before the kids came in. Like, I understand if you've hired somebody, but can you let me down? Can you at least, it doesn't even have to be easy at this point. Just let me down. Let me know the news. So we're like an hour deep into this. He's telling me about his coaching search and whatever. And it blew me away. He ends up offering me the job. And I figured it out. I was the guy that he had in mind, and he had called all those previous 5 candidates who had interviewed. He'd called them all and told them, I've already got a guy in mind. And funny story, this is Duger Balcom at Virginia Military Institute. Shout out VMI. What an awesome school. What an awesome opportunity. Duger, forever grateful to you. He is a genius in a lot of ways as a coach. He's been a Division I head coach now for, good Lord, 16, 17 years. He's down at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. Had a fantastic, working relationship with him. Just awesome guy, and I'll never forget that night. But he told me the reason that he did that to me is because when he was first hired for his first job, which is a volunteer assistant at Davidson under Bob McKillop in 1985, Bob McKillop had done the same thing to him. Made him wait, gave him, hey, I'll call you by Monday, and calls him on Sunday night at 11:59, right? So here's my point. I know I've gone on and on, 20 minutes, whatever. Everything that you're going through, it is worth it. It is so worth it, right? And I don't care, where you're at in your journey. For me, I coached 6 years of high school basketball and had some awesome times doing that. We played in a regional championship game. We played in the 4A state championship game in North Carolina. I was able to coach under two very successful, just extremely intelligent, brilliant coaches. David Piper at Southern High School, and then David Neal at Apex, David Neal is now the athletic director at Sanderson High School in Raleigh, North Carolina. David Neal played basketball for Dean Smith at North Carolina. So I'm a Duke guy, he's a North Carolina guy, but I learned so much basketball. My point is, some of my greatest moments in basketball were the journey. It's not just the phone call from Duger saying, hey coach, you're hired for your first job. It is the journey, and it's not as special without what you're going through right now. It's not. And it's so worth it. It is absolutely worth it. Anything I can do to help you, smash the like button, subscribe, email me, personal emails down in the description box. I hope that something in this video resonates with you and helped you. Looking forward to putting out more comments, but shout out to VMI, Lexington, Virginia, Southern Conference, right? Had a great time there for 3 or 4 years, and will never forget my experience. All right, hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you guys soon.